Sweet.
Um,
Sweet. We are live. This is the Open LMS. Which hand is it? This hand. I always get it wrong because I'm looking at myself. Open LMS, eLearn Community Office Hours. You're live now with Laddick, which is me, and my colleague. Ah, see, I got it
Chris.
wrong over there. Chris
Yeah.
over there. How you
Hi,
doing today,
everyone.
Chris?
Great. I'm energetic,
Ooh,
enthusiastic.
exciting because
Mm,
it's the afternoon on Wednesday. This is the lowest energy period of my day, so
How is it?
it's fantastic.
Why do we do this at this time then?
We do it because that's when the people who listen to us are available. We can always try to do it during my highest energy time, but that's 7 o'clock in the morning, 6:30 to between
Mm,
6 and 8 in the
Let's
morning. That's my highest energy, highest productivity, highest creativity.
let's put a
I'm
pin on
insane
that.
like that. oh, oh yes. So today we have, I don't know, you see the heading up there. We're building a course. So
Yeah.
this is Chris's idea. I love this idea. This is a fantastic idea. And
But I
today
have to
is
say,
it's the planning from pre-planning about the planning. So anyway, I don't have to say what.
yeah, no, that funnily, I was speaking with Maddie. Hope you get many people know her, but uh, one of my wishes is that the community gets to know her in one of these sessions. But we were just
Oh,
speaking
she'll
today
clear sometime.
about, yeah, we were speaking about how I do have a lot of crazy ideas all the time, and we have this good dynamic, like the three of us, where I can sort of push crazy, and you can like write it in a very good way. Because I mean, basically, the gist of it is that if you guys think it's crazy, then it probably is, or it needs uh, more building up.
Thought. Yeah. Some more thought, more
Yeah.
refinement, more whatever.
But the good thing is that when you guys are in, I can say that you are. I feel supported. So, and that
100%.
encourages me further.
I am just my
Mm.
internet connection is not loving me right now. So I'm gonna try doing a few things while we are getting here so that I can repair this. So anyway, so let's talk about building a course. Tell me if I have the idea
Um,
correct, because you only presented this 36 hours ago to me, maybe even 24 hours ago. And the idea is something that we've talked about before, because in our design session for the eLearn Success Series, which right here, folks, there's a little plug. eLearn Success Series.
nice.
If you're listening to this on the recording or now, go over eLearnSuccessSeries.com, sign up. It's 4 events. What's
May,
that?
May,
May
May
4th.
4.
Yeah. Our first session was on February 23rd. It was the design session. Like 1,200 people came. We all had a great time talking about what is instructional design today? Why is it important? How to do it better? We're expecting the same kind of crowd in the instructor session on May 4th. And the instructor session is going to be not about how to teach better. It's not going to be about even how to look better online, because we kind of we've done that. What we're going to be talking about is equality. We're going to talk about accessibility. We're going to talk about equity. We're going to talk about neurodiversity. We're going to talk about the future of learning and the education profession. We're pretty excited about we have some great guests, like Thomas Corner, who is the current chair of the Moodle Users Association. He's going to be one of our speakers. Jess Corinne from Learnfully, super dynamic. She's going to be talking about frontal lobe, executive function stuff, and how to recognize that in both younger and adult learners, and how to have success in a learning environment. Our very own Amy Tessitore, who is super dynamic. She was actually on the hot seat recently. I hope
This
a lot of
week.
people saw her. Absolute massive, expertise in how to teach effectively. Who else? The other name,
Michael Bond.
Michael Vaughn. Yeah, he's going to be talking about how to build accessibility into a course as you're creating it, and thinking about that as an instructor. Nick Furman as well, who his TED Talk about being a better teacher through his care profile. Although he's not going to put that on the table. He's going to put a different one on the table. His TED Talk has got more than 1 million views. I'm excited to see what he puts on the table. I think he's going to be super dynamic, which is exciting. And there will be a couple others that we're going to announce later because we're still like arm wrestling.
Yeah. Okay. And and we're having a Spanish section.
Right.
The people.
Mucho gusto, sí. La tercera sección, la tercer lugar. What's the section? ¿Cómo se dice section in español?
Section, but I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, of course, porque we have 3 sections. Basically, we're also breaking up. We're breaking up the format. So rather than having a 7.5, 8 hour format where we're just going to go by part, the first section is for sort of for like the United States and Europe time zone. We're going to have a second session then after a big break for the Australia Pacific universe, and then we're coming back sort of the next day from in that East Coast sort of European time frame. That's where we do the Latin America section as well, because that fits well within the Latin America. I guess Spain will be in its evening hours, but but the rest of Latin America will be right in the sweet spot there. Hello to Douglas Edwards. Good to see you again, sir. Had some great conversations with you in past. So I'm excited to see you back. What do you like talking, Douglas? If you have something you want to talk about today, throw it on the table. We had a great conversation last time.
Do you wanna build a course with us, Douglas?
Yeah, Douglas, would you like to build a course with us? That is a great question, Chris. That is a great question. So for the next 24 minutes or so, tell me about how we're going to do this, Chris. What's the pre-planning on building a course? Like I was about to give the genesis of it, but it was your crazy idea. Why don't you say, where did it come from?
I mean, it is, but it isn't. I mean, it's something that we've been talking about for a while. We've been floated it. We've been, and I think it's actually an open conversation of, do we want to add a structured learning element to our series of events? Which I guess we're still open to the idea, but we haven't found the opening or the space to do it. So I was thinking, why don't we just do it out in the open? Because I know there can be a lot of anxieties around just jumping in, especially if you're like an entrepreneur or something like that.
I love the idea of being a crash test dummy. You know what I mean? If there's anything that you and I are brutally honest about with the world, is that we've been talking about e-learning and discussing it and researching it and reporting on it for 6-7 years now, each of us. But we are not people sitting in the server room, and we're not teachers who are building it every day. So it's like, hey, what if we did this as well, and sort of allow others to say, yeah, you did that wrong, or hey, you could have done that differently, or wow, didn't know that was possible, right?
Yeah, that reminds me, when I was studying theater at the university, we had a lot of really crazy things to do, but one of the activities that we did, it was called the Falling Festival.
The Fail Festival, yeah, the Fail Festival, sure, yeah.
No, the falling, literally. So we all sit on the seats, and one by one we would go on the stage and we would fall. That was the thing to do. You fall and move on, and then the next one. And it was really funny, and it was really fun. And
But people catch you, right?
No. You can fall whatever way you want.
Oh, I see. You make up your fall, basically. Like, you could do something funny, you could do something dramatic, you could do something slow motion, all those things.
Exactly. Whatever comes to your mind, right there and there. A bit of improv there. So I think of that, and funnily enough, I don't feel that I've failed that much.
I have.
So I know I have, but I just don't feel. I mean, you ask me what has been my greatest failure, I don't know. I don't really have a ready answer for you.
That's interesting. Of course,
So
That
maybe this is
again.
the
I don't want to
first.
wax philosophical because our time's going to go by so fast. Douglas, is this a
It's,
process that you normally use? He's interested in, like, he wants to dive into this meat here. What do you have on our screen here, Chris? Component layer, marketing layer, community layer, assessment layer, analytics layer. See, this is the beauty of not being a teacher, is that we approach this problem in a different way. Over to you.
that's true. And I think I I can say this has come from anything that we've done before, but I see layers as or maybe lens would be a better idea. Like, okay, let's build a course based on a given point of view, because I know that there is a lot of theory, a lot of methodology, a lot of, I actually looked into like a course creation canvas, and there's like a ton, all different, not that different, but a lot has their own like things. So I say, I don't want to add to that noise, but I don't want to stay away from that. So I think that's like layers. Every
Oh,
point of view would be a layer. So maybe um, maybe today we talk about, or maybe not today, maybe just today talk about all of this, and then we take a layer at some point, but each layer has a couple of different things. So
like
and
one thing I see missing in here is, and for me, is where's the subject matter layer?
but that would be the first one.
So that's component.
So by component, I mean, what's the subject, what's going to be there, and based on what. Um, so
Learning
I mean,
objectives, all of those things.
exactly. Seems obvious that that should be the first thing we talk about, but I'm not sure if we can do that. I mean, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think we can come up with a subject right now?
I think we could, in this very second, could we come up with a subject that would be interesting that we could actually, I don't know. Is it
That we
I
know.
mean,
And
could we do a how-to?
and I mean, another thing that I want to, and I'm not sure, I don't think it's really reflected. There's a lot of knowledge for us to pull from, which is the series, these summits. And actually, that's something that we've been discussing. It's the possibility to turn that into a course. So, but I guess that would be something about a course about how to build a course. But that kind of sounds, I don't know,
Say you're
scam.
gonna Alan Lee says maybe composition layer rather than component layer. Because for me, component layer, and maybe this is just the English, component sounds to me more like the parts of the technology, right? Like what components are we putting together, or maybe what blocks, or are we going to use an assessment module, or are we going to use a peer assessment? Are we going to use what kind of homework assignment, or what kind of assignment module are we going to use? That kind of stuff.
All right, sounds good.
So
As we go.
Look at
And of
that.
course, I missed
Alan Lee.
technology.
Boom.
Yeah, excellent. I'm also reminded of this. There was kind of a social online experience on Twitch. You know Twitch.
I've heard of Twitch.
So
I've
it's
never
like
experienced it. Yes.
well, a lot of things happen there, but the main thing that people go there is to watch other people play video games.
Sure, understand. Yeah, got that.
And somehow one of them set up a project called Twitch Plays Pokemon. So basically, with the comments that people could write on the comments, the main player would behave.
Would attack and bring the Pokemon up, and
yeah,
I know
but
how
the
it
funny
works.
thing
I
is,
have two young boys, or I had two young boys. So
yeah, but it was really crazy because every comment would cause a reaction. So it was a huge audience playing it. So it was, and there was no possibility to coordinate, like just on real time. But funnily enough, after a bunch of hours and thousands of people just saying up, down, eat, beat, they finished the game, and that was incredible.
that's awesome. That's amazing. So
So
composition layer. Why would you put again? If I'm a teacher, a professor, or whatever, I'm a marketing layer does not make any sense to me. So what are you saying? Why is a marketing layer there? And I'm assuming that these are not in necessarily sequential order that they have to be done, or is that your thought?
No, not at all. These are
if we're making
like
a cake that we're calling our course, these are the parts that make up that cake.
No, so I think maybe lens is the better word than layer.
Instead of layer?
Yeah, because you put like every this is, as I said, these are points of view to create your course. So you put on and you say, oh, in terms of composition, it sounds perfect. It has well-structured objectives, competencies, whatever. So that's perfect. But, and let me answer to you why marketing is there. So I see marketing as the process of achieving visible outcomes in terms of communication, in terms of providing people tools for their decision making. And that's a case that I've been trying to make for a while, and it's that marketing teachers could learn a lot from marketers, and
100%.
marketers could learn a lot from education. And of course, I'm that serious when it says, why not once we build this course? I don't want us to treat this course like
what we're going to do though is we're going to, I think I'm putting this suggestion on the table in terms of topic, is we're going to go to Madison or Amy Tessitore or some other colleague that we have, and let's just ask, like, what is something that our clients have asked us to build? What is something that is needed? And so let's actually build something that would be useful to the client base.
And now that you mention it, I wasn't thinking of it, but I think it's really important because one fundamental part in marketing is marketing research. And if there's one thing that a teacher could get out of a marketer of the marketing process is user research, customer research, understand the audience, learn about them, how do you want to meet them, and so on. So that is, I don't know if that's not enough answer.
So but I love it. Look at Alan Lee. He's just put it here. He said, learning and marketing convergence is real. We couldn't agree more. And so one thing, Douglas, if I remember correctly, you work at a children's hospital in the California area, if I'm not mistaken, or you work in that field. I'm interested. Like you say, you use marketing more like promotion. So if you're building learning, my assumption was that you're building learning internally for hospital staff, professionals. I'm assuming you're not building it for the medical profession themselves. Who are you promoting to? But man, I'm putting that out there. Just I'm interested to hear what are you promoting, essentially. And for you, Alan Lee, I mean, I'd be interested to hear, what do you mean more specifically by learning marketing convergence? Because I'm not going to lead the witness. I don't want Chris to either, because I've got my own definition. We've been thinking about this for a long time. But I'd be interested to hear what you mean, Alan, about that. So while we're waiting for their answers, Chris, I think we've clearly found something that's people are interested in here. So okay, marketing layer. What then is the community lens or layer?
I was hoping it was a bit self-explanatory, and it's. Suffice it to say that whatever we do here, it needs to connect. It needs to focus in a way that connects people. Mm-hmm. And like, for example, composition layer includes assessment, or well, maybe not.
There is you have an assessment layer.
Yeah. But from the assessment layer, we can say, oh, does this activity, completing this activity, lead to evidence of competency achieved? And let's say, sure, fine. But if we put the community lens, I'm going to change that right now. If we put the community lens, then we wonder, okay, this activity may be good for composition or marketing, but does it help people build community? Does it help people understand each other, connect with each other, support each other? in addition to all of the other things. We do have a community imperative. I mean, kind of, this is our goal in a way. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So
So I guess, but so community, I'm really, this is, as I know that we only started this conversation about 24, like I said, 36 hours ago, but now that we're actually really breaking it down, really interesting to me, the community layer as well, because I think it would be super instructional for us to, you have to do it the other way around. You want to find layer and replace with lens. But it like, how does what's the typical process for a instructor, since we're coming up on the instructor session once again here, May 4th, somebody who doesn't have access to an instructional designer, someone who doesn't have access to instructional design resources, maybe somebody who has been in the system for a long time, and has built courses for a long, like what's their typical process? And then juxtapose that against, what would be the process of sort of a modern cutting edge, instructional designer in order to design a course or something like that. That's just, again, there's a whole nother, that's a panel discussion for another hot seat maybe. But for me, the community lens sounds like, is that just another way of saying, as a marketer, who's our audience?
No, I mean, what I mean is that the community lens will answer the question of how does joining our course builds a community? Like, how do we I mean, I'm imagining at the end of the course, but maybe during the process of building it. And maybe it's a good time to answer, to look into Ellen Lee's comment. Because, and that's exactly what you said there. Like, everyone has their own process. So wouldn't it be great if we allow for community, for people to join and let us know, hey, this is how I do it. And some people say, oh, that's fine. And we can say, oh, this is actually a really good idea. Let's use it right now. Or say, oh, it's a good idea, does not apply to us, but thank you for sharing. Maybe others did. And that is how we build community, and that's how we build community value. So if at some point, I would think, if at some point of this process that we're starting, we don't see a community, I would lose a lot of motivation to keep going.
I see what you're saying. I like that. That kind of sounds like it connects well with Douglas put on here. He's that there's usually a de facto community of learners who help each other informally. So yeah, it's always that balance between what do we need, what are the business goals that we need to be moving forward and through skill development, upskilling, reskilling, and those kinds of things. But then what are the actual desires and passions of the people that are in the company or organization or school? It's a great, not only thought piece, but it's just also sort of it's a reality that we all deal with. Super cool. Thank you for both for contributing so much. So you stumbled there a few minutes ago about assessment maybe as a part of composition, but I think assessment deserves its own layer or lens for sure, because how do we want to test and show learner proficiency, right? Or that not only knowledge has been acquired, but that it can be used. Is that where you're going with assessment lens?
Absolutely. And I say it as someone who's never been quite satisfied by the way assessments take place, like across, and I think what saddens me, if I'm being dramatic, is that online learning did not do a lot of reflection on what would be the right kind of assessment. But it's funny because at the same time, you do see that a lot of people talk about this, and I know I'm not alone knowing that there are things that don't quite work when it comes to assessment. Like, And I mean assessment in terms of acquire knowledge, acquire skill, but I guess that's just, I think we need to stop thinking of assessment as a checklist, and
Mm-hmm.
rather as is this delivering value for a period of time in the future.
Again, I think, and I don't think that's too much to ask. I think there's probably a spectrum of both understanding and effort that people want to put into assessment, right? At the end of the day, if you've been in the system for a long time and you've kind of been running your courses and you've been running your trainings or whatever for a long time, my guess is that you're on, you do your assessments one way, and somebody coming new into the education world, from an instructional design lens, would look at it exactly the way you describe. I think, Alan Lee has a great comment here about peer-to-peer support. And, basically, validating content consumption. Sorry, peer-to-peer support and validation of content consumption. So, a lot of cases, these guys are both dealing with compliance, right? Hey, I just did some compliance training myself for my organization on health and safety, and
Finally.
I'm only 8 months late. Anybody say that? But I love that Alan's being, if it's sticky and impactful, there's water cool stuff. Like, it's one of those things. It takes me back to like the Brenda, or what was her name? Beeman? Somebody Beeman?
Rhonda Beeman.
Rhonda Beeman, like thinking about how she builds her courses at the university level around rethink the entire delivery of what you're putting there and allow them to take that and, take that experience and walk out of the learning moment or the classroom with it, because as Douglas Edwards is now saying here, is that he's found that many assessments do not measure or predict anything or very little. An assessment is often thought of as an add-on. Whereas this is the holy grail for education, right? You want to be able to say, hey, look, we needed to have this skill given to our workers or our students, and now we need some way to show that they've acquired that skill.
Yeah. And, I don't know if it's something new, but I've talked to a couple of people who kind of complain how young graduates, like, they don't know a lot of stuff. And I say, yeah, I know there are critical or chronic failures in assessment in our education
100%.
system. Actually, I think with this comment by Douglas, that's
classic. We need to screen grab that and social, tweet that right now. I'm like,
yeah. So I guess a good question or a good proposition would be, let's think of assessments without using exams, tests, or quizzes. What would assessment would look like without being able to use or even mentioning those? And I know there's a lot to draw from, really. There's
tons. People have been trying to crack the assessment nut forever, right?
Exactly.
Assessment without assessment, how do you assess without assessing, right? Like, isn't that like the real holy grail? Like, if what Douglas says is true, like, teaching, because ultimately what it does is results in teaching to an exam or teaching to a test or teaching to a quiz, right? Like, here are the 10 points about, the Revolutionary War that you need to know. And so you make sure that those 10 points are drilled into everyone's head, rather than having the student be able to walk around that topic of the Revolutionary War in the United States and really ingest and think about and become a part of that experience. That's super deep and philosophical for the moment, right? But
that's what we do.
We're kind of coming up on our time for office hours here, but analytical lens. Or the analytics lens, if Douglas and Alan Lee, if you guys both think that assessment has a long way to go, analytics, woo, it's just amazing to me how many times we have conversations about analytics with people who are either they're the ghost in the machine, or they, why bother with them, or this is Big Brother or whatever. Whereas analytics, really, it could be a really interesting way to improve that educational piece. But
yeah, and know there's something that Alan Lee says, and I was thinking about it when you were talking about before getting to the philosophical and well, assessment without assessment. And I find that, I mean, when I think of it, like what would be the best assessment or that I can think of right now, then I can come up with is a conversation, like a long open conversation. And well, Allen talks about offering multiple choices where none of the answers are wrong. But I don't see that different
Yep.
from just
Yes and no. I mean,
open-ended questions.
Right, but there's also, I think many times we have to think of all of the different types of things about that of the skills that we can build. For example, if you are training people to be mechanics in, a service center for a auto dealer, there's really real clear competencies about whether or not you know how to change a carburetor, if carburetors even exist anymore. I don't know. In electric cars, who knows? Whereas leadership skills, social skills, historical, historical understanding, team building skills, working, customer service skills, these kinds of things. Those are, I 100% agree, where it's like, hey, let's test your EQ and as well as your IQ, as well as your, understanding the material. 100%.
Yeah, and well, I guess there would be like a practical element missing. I mean, did that knowledge turned into?
Well,
And
I
maybe
mean, look at what Douglas Edwards says here. I mean, everyone seems to demand analytics, but not many seem to use them once they get them. I mean, that's, as someone who was an evaluator for 15 years of my life, I can say that I've written hundreds and hundreds of assessment reports for organizations that are like, you get it to the manager and one or two people have read it and then, it goes on a shelf. And in the rarest case did they actually have effect, right? And so this is where you go from acquiring or identifying the analytics to acquiring the data to actually analyzing what the data means to then actually moving it to a leadership position that takes action. Because ultimately then what you're talking about is change management. And if there's the most painful thing and difficult thing to do in any organization of any size is create, is move change forward, right? So I think, you've really hit the nail on the head there, Douglas. That's, I feel like we're not even talking about education anymore, but this is, you're absolutely right. Exactly. Let's wrap it up with the technology lens, because we do work for a tech company.
No, absolutely. And I mean, I think I'm assuming that this will be an online course. So
it's probably a good one, since I don't know if you're going to, yes.
Or we can host this course on Mexico City when we're
Why
done.
not? I think, CDMX is a super destination for everybody to come to. I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
But anyway,
but I'm thinking now that I guess I have two questions before we wrap up today. And one is, can we define the subject matter now, or would it be better to just define it during the day? Maybe we can ask for people to comment to what would be a good subject. And then
well,
we
I think,
decide.
I think it would, we kind of want to achieve lots of different outcomes with that one thing, right? And so I think it would be really worthwhile for us to go back to our customer engagement team, our customer success team, go back to our Open LMS Academy team, et cetera, and just say, hey, look, is there a thing or a course that is on the back burner or is in the schedule, to build, that we could use as a guinea pig, to do this ourselves and do it that way? Because then we're kind of achieving goals for all kinds of, for our audience, for ourselves, for the company. You know what I mean? So I think we should do it that way.
And the second question I have is, what layer am I missing? Are we missing? And I'm thinking, for example, of the social emotional layer, empathy. I don't know if that could be like within the community, or does this deserve an entirely different lens?
That
and
is,
what
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. But let's leave that. Let's leave that to our community. Yes. Is there what's missing from these layers that, the best course, the best course would have in it. Douglas, Alan, many thank you to both of you. Man, this is exactly what Chris and I have always been hoping for. You, Douglas, are absolutely welcome to come down here in Mexico City. Actually, yeah, if you're in California, come down to Mexico City. It's the perfect time of year, just before the rainy season. Primavera. It's fantastic. I think we've set ourselves upon a course here. Funny enough, pun intended, to build this course. So next time we'll come back and let's go through our process of how we picked a subject and start on that component layer.
And I mean, I would hope that over time people can sort of tag along. They can,
100%.
if they want to build their own course, just build it. And I know that, well, people are going to be on different stages of a course building at any time. So I think we need to find a way to make like each session like a self-containing. And I think this one, like for ideation, brainstorming, I've heard a lot about design thinking, but I don't really know what that entails. But brainstorming, if you need brainstorming, watch this video 5-10 years from now.
Awesome. Well, let's put a pin in it there. So next week we're going to come back with subject matters that, subjects that we have talked with our team about and see where we'll go. And we'll use that as our next topic. So thank you again to Alan and Douglas. Thank you, Chris, for this wonderful idea. And let's take it from there. Ciao, ciao.
Awesome. Bye.